What is up guys, and welcome to a new series where I use money making guides from the OSRS Wiki. If you guys enjoy this idea, I'll definitely make more and try to run through every single one of these on the list, no matter how ridiculous they might be. I'll be trying and testing out these money makers to see how accurate they are so you don't have to. Let's get into the video. So for this video we have another suggestion from another viewer, and it is to do brutal black dragons. Now this moneymaker has less requirements than our last money making video, which was the ruined dragon video, but it also shows that the profit is less than that, so it's a nice middle ground if you don't feel like grinding out Dragon Slayer 2. And for this video we'll also be making use of our twisted bow so we can get the maximum amount of money in 1 hour. Of course the profit in the end will be different for you depending on what gear you use. If you don't use twisted bow, you can use Dragon Hunter crossbow. If you don't use Dragon Hunter crossbow, then you can just use a regular ruined crossbow. And I think you might even be able to use a blowpipe if you bring the extended super anti-fires, but I'm not too sure about that. For our gear setup, of course, we'll be using the twisted bow, and we're going with max range. We're going with full armadillo, the necklace of anguish. We're using amethyst arrows to save some money, and because they're pretty good for their price. We're using Pegasians, archer's ring, barrel's gloves, the Avis cape, and we're also going to use our max cape, which isn't shown here, but I do get it later on. Max cape is just for teleporting to our POH to heal and to get our prayer back. And then of course we also use the max cape to teleport to the crafting guild to bank our items. And if you don't have the crafting guild teleport, you can just teleport to Castle Wars and bank there. In our inventory I have the divine ranging potion, I have the extended anti-fire potion, and I have some prayer potions. And then of course I also have the Xerix talisman, which we'll be using to teleport to the Xerix Inferno, which is the closest teleport to the brutal black dragon lair. Now the inventory setup will change depending on what gear you bring. I actually changed mine midway through this video. I instead only brought one prayer potion. The divine ranging potions, I really only used one per trip, one dose of it. And then the anti-fire, I also brought 1 doses, but those were good for around 2 trips just because of how much DPS I did with the twisted bow. I was able to leave like every 5 minutes it seemed like. But like I said before, depending on what gear you bring, you'll figure out after a couple trips what supplies is the best to bring for a trip to Brutal Black Dragons. Now the last time that I was here at Brutal Black Dragons was a very long time ago, and it was actually whenever I was looking for a good moneymaker. And the last time I came here, I'm pretty sure I had a ruined crossbow, and I'm pretty sure I was using the adamant diamond bolts enchanted, I think it was. And it was much slower back then, but it was still a good moneymaker at the time since I didn't have, too much money. So again, if you are looking for a decent moneymaker with semi-low requirements, you do need 77 Slayer to kill these, but after you get that, it's pretty good money. You'll also want to make sure that you have at least 37 prayer so that you can protect from magic, because if you don't protect from magic, these dragons can hit pretty hard. And if you manage to stay out of their melee range and pray magic and then also drink your anti-fire, you can negate all possible damage, and then you can just camp here forever. That's why you don't bring food, because you take no damage if you're playing it smart. The only time you really take damage is whenever you're picking up loot off the ground and you're next to a dragon who is in melee range. Aside from prayer, you'll also want a high range level, just so you can do more DPS. The higher your DPS, the more money you'll be making. And then of course it's also nice to have your own POH with an ornate pool so you can restore your stats, but again, it's not totally necessary, just like the twisted bow isn't necessary, but it does help out in the long run. And besides that, that's really all you need to kill these dragons. They're pretty AFK. I wouldn't say that they're more AFK than ruined dragons, but if I really think about it, they probably are, just because you don't have to eat. With ruined dragons, you do stay there longer, so that's why I was saying that it's more AFK, but you do have to eat a lot more. But if you bring a ruined crossbow like the person that is next to me has brought, you'll probably stay a lot longer and it'll be a lot more AFK. Now, I said earlier that I was using the Xerix talisman to teleport to the Xerix Inferno, because it's the closest teleport to these brutal black dragons. But if you haven't been here before and you haven't used that shortcut that I'm using, you actually have to go to the Catacombs of Kren, the statue right in the middle of Kren. You'd have to investigate that to dig down here. come over here to the brutal black dragons and then climb up this rope, and that will unlock the shortcut for you if you haven't already done that. Now this was a pretty fitting moneymaker just because I've been spending a lot of time in Zaya recently because of the whole Twisted League. I actually just recently unlocked the last relic. I went with the double XP relic because it was in line with the goals that I have for the account. I'm AFKing on it currently, so getting that double XP is pretty nice. But yeah, I've become a lot more familiar with the whole landmass that is Zaya just because of this Twisted League. And again, if you haven't tried it out, I highly recommend it. It's a pretty fun game mode. I think you'll have a good time. So overall, this moneymaker is pretty relaxed. There is one great drop that you can get from these, which is the Draconic Visage. It is a 1 in 10,000 drop rate, and if you manage to land one of those, consider yourself pretty lucky. Honestly, I don't believe I've gotten a Draconic Visage from these regular dragons before. I've gotten 2 from KBD, and I've also gotten 1 from Vorkath, so I've gotten 3 total, but none from the smaller dragons. Another cool drop that I wasn't really expecting was the Anglerfish drop. They actually drop Anglerfish, so if you do end up taking some damage from standing in melee distance, you can just use the Anglerfish that they drop to heal back up to full health. But with that being said, we are approaching the end of our 1 hour of killing brutal black dragons. I gotta say, this was a very nice, relaxing moneymaker, and I am excited to show you what I got from 1 hour of brutal blacks with a twisted bow. So this is the loot from the 1 hour, and as you can see, I did get pretty unlucky because I got another shield half, which I always seem to get those. But, you know, it is what it is. I also got a hard clue scroll, and I got 2 ancient crystals that you can use for the arc lights. But here is the total price check. Around 2.2 mil. That is a lot more than what I was expecting. I think that's better than Ruined Dragons, so just a heads up, if you have enough money for a T-bow, you're probably better off doing Brutal Blacks instead of Ruined Dragons. I think I might seriously consider switching over to Brutal Black Dragons on my ult instead of killing the Ruined Dragons while I'm playing Twisted League. I honestly wasn't expecting to see that much money, but yeah, I mean, you learn something new every day. So here I am just selling off the loot. I know normally I will put it in there for a high price, let it sit there for a little bit, which you can totally do. You can do that. I mean, if you're going to AFK this moneymaker and spend, you know, hundreds of hours here, then yeah, I do recommend putting it in for either market price or a little above, and then just letting it sell over time. But since it was just 1 hour, and I'm trying to sell this loot off quick, I'll just put it in for under market price, and we will see how much we made. And then of course, after we are done selling all of the loot and we check to see how much we made, I will of course be showing the cost of supplies that we used during this 1 hour of killing the brutal black dragons. And with these black D'hide Vambraces sold, that is all of the loot, and as you see here, we do have the 2.2 million GP from killing these brutal black dragons for 1 hour. Not bad at all. Now we can go ahead and take a look at the supplies used. I have the prayer potions, divine ranging potions, anti-fires, amethyst arrows, and the lizardman fangs that you use to teleport with the Xerix talisman, bringing a total of around 136k, almost 137k in supplies used. That is pretty cheap if you're using the T-bow. Again, I am pretty surprised with the total amount of money that we spent on supplies. This is turning out to be a really good moneymaker, but now that we've done that, we can go to the next screen and we will see how much we made in total profit. So if we get the total amount of money that we spent on supplies, which was 136,960 GP, and we subtract that from the money that we made, which was 2,223,102 GP, we get a grand total profit of 2,086,142 GP. So over 2 mil an hour if you're using a T-bow at Brutal Black Dragons. That is a very good moneymaker, and that is a lot better than Ruined Dragons. So I will probably be doing Brutal Black Dragons for the foreseeable future. And like I said before, the Twisted Bow isn't totally necessary, but as you can see, it does help with the total profit. But like I said before, you can also use the Dragon Hunter crossbow, you can use the blowpipe, or if you're really on a budget, you can even use the Ruin Knight crossbow, which is what I was using when I first started this all that time ago. So as always, I just want to say thanks for checking out the video, If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and possibly a subscription. It's totally free. And of course, if you have any ideas for any OSRS Wiki money making methods that you want to see, just leave it down in the comments below and I will get to it ASAP. Thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you in the next video.